World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to World Pro Racing. The action steps up another gear here on Wednesday nights, as my name's Alex Goldschmidt, and alongside me for the USF 2000 Series Championship here on World Pro Racing. Good evening to our very own Chris Buxton. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Alex. It's a great pleasure to be back in the box once again, and an almighty pleasure to be alongside your good self. And what a series we have got. And what a great venue we kick off the series at. It's the USF 2000s at Adria in Italy. What a short but very technical circuit. Should be fairly well suited to these cars. But yeah, I really can't wait. We've got some wonderful drivers lined up for this series, and this should be a cracker.
Yep, this will be the start of the 5-week championship that will take place firstly here at Adria in Italy. Then we head to Indianapolis before we head to Portugal at Portimao. Back stateside for Watkins Glen for the penultimate round. And then good old Alton Park International for the 5th and final round of the season. Firstly, a big thank you to those watching on the respective World Pro Racing streams on Facebook, Twitch and YouTube. Also to our viewers on Malta's TVM Sport channel, motorsport.tv and eSports Television. And of course, we can't thank our partners and sponsors enough for their assistance in continuing to support us here at World Pro Racing, including Gaming Malta. This stream is powered by Melita. We also have the likes of Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, where we're all gamers, and AMD. And Chris, one of the biggest things, it's a rapid style format as always with single seaters, a 15-minute free practice session, 15-minute qualifying session, and then a 30-minute all-out sprint race. It's going to be rather interesting tonight here because it's tight, it's technical, and if we go 3 wide into Ramata on lap 1, I think we're all going to be having kittens.
Yes, if we're going to see lots of 3 wides, someone's going to be over the fence. This track is short, very twisty, and is quite unforgiving in certain places. So it really is going to come down to how familiar these drivers are with this particular track. It's not a track that's used in a huge amount of series, but it's a track that really tests these drivers. We're going to very much see the pecking order formed very, very quickly from this track. There are some tracks that we all know and love that may be a little bit more forgiving for drivers that are maybe less familiar with them. This isn't one of them. This is an absolute... what it doesn't have in length, it certainly makes up for in bite in the challenge that this track holds. So I really look forward to how our drivers are going to handle it. They're going to have to be patient, but let's face it, racing drivers... that patience kind of comes and goes at times. So, yeah, if they're going to try 3 wide, let's be ready for some incidents going on.
I think we might have to have the defibrillators on standby, my good man.
Absolutely, yes. That's is going to be, we're going to be digging some people out of the gravel trap, I dare say.
Well, there is the circuit itself, Adria International Raceway, 1.679 miles long, 2.702 kilometres, and it has hosted the likes of the FIA World Touring Car Championship, Race of Italy, the Italian Formula 4 Championship, F3 Italia, and also the likes of the FIA GT Championship and the Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters, the DTM, where Alexandra Primer back in 2010 had one of the biggest flips I've ever seen in a touring car silhouette vehicle. But as you can see, the air temperature, we're running to real-time weather. It's around a peachy 7.1 degrees Celsius on the air temperature. But the conditions out there, Chris, look rather favourable for the drivers in the opening round of the season.
Somewhat, yes. Not uncharacteristic of Italy, but yeah, that's brisk. I think it's fair to say there's not going to be many drivers that will find 7 degrees air temperature, pleasant, especially when they're flying through it at 100 plus miles an hour. But yeah, as you can see from the track map there, that's what I'm referring to. This track is really twisty and technical, so this is going to be a real true test. Now, the shot we can see here over the start finish line makes the track look quite wide. That's very deceptive when you're at absolutely full crank going for a position in these single seaters, because if those sidewalls touch, we're going to be rivaling the flip that you were referring to earlier.
Maybe even on the maybe the case of what might have happened back in 1999 at Le Mans. But obviously you can see the calendar there. So this week we had Adria round 2, a week from now, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Then round 3 will be at Portimao, the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. I've actually been not too far away from there. Again, it seems like 2 of the tracks on this calendar I've actually visited indirectly, because there's a karting circuit smack bang right next door to it. The same for Adria and Portimao. Watkins Glen will be round 4, the penultimate round of the season, on the 7th of April, and Alton Park in Cheshire will host the season finale. Now, these particular vehicles, they are based on the Van Diemen Elan DP08 chassis, and it's powered by the MZR 2-litre 4-cylinder double overhead cam engine with fuel injectors, which can produce around about 170 brake horsepower and can also potentially achieve a speed of around 150 miles an hour. But Chris, here at Adria, I think we're going to be going up the gears rather rapidly, but straight away, as you said earlier, hitting on the brakes rather early if needs be.
Yeah, completely. We won't be seeing the top ends of these cars met by any, not by conventional means anyway. You might just about be getting close to that. Oh, that's one way of doing that right-hander. Well held, must be said. But that's actually something we're going to be seeing quite a lot, especially as the track temperature is very, very low. These guys are going to have very, very cold tyres. Who can handle those sliding moments the best is going to really be shown at the top of the tire. But now, that might sound a little bit obvious. Yes, you have to handle the car properly. But, single seaters, anything with a wing on it, that's a tad wide. But again, I'm sure he's struggling with the tire temperatures out there at the moment. Because these cars don't have a mass amount of downforce on them, yes, they do have a front and rear wing. That's partly regulatory, but what they don't have is a lot of speed. They do have 170 horsepower is enough to give you a great old kick in the backside if you floored it, but they're not going to be getting up to speed where they're using the downforce an awful lot. So they need to be rotating the car as best they can, and doing that forward sliding that we're seeing these drivers do is often the best way if you control it properly. And those tires, as you can see as the cars are rotating through the camera, they are very, very skinny. So your grip is not going to be something that is very plentiful in these cars. And some people really do depend on a car that is very stuck, it's very planted, very stuck to the road. Some people really revel in that kind of four-wheel drift, or when the tail has started to misbehave. So again, you would hope that these drivers have all practiced these cars as well as we would hope. But we were talking before broadcast. We're seeing drivers from lots of different categories as well of sim racing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how their skills from previous categories translate into this series.
Indeed, Dean Vella there from GT Omega RPM Esports in the. I understand a couple of Australians, the likes of Casey and Vance Lagarde from Matrix Motorsport, they were up before the crack of dawn down under to get competitive in this, and you can just see how hard these guys are pushing tonight here, Chris.
Indeed, I mean that's a new level of dedication to be up at something like 3 o'clock in the morning to be taking part in this series. All credit to them. And we wish all of our drivers luck, of course, that are taking part and have appeared for tonight's race. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how well everybody does. But it's also a testament to the multinational reach that this series has attained. Obviously, we've got a lot of European-based drivers. We're also reaching to Australia. That's absolutely fantastic work from those in the background that have organised and put this on, of course, World Pro Racing.
Yes, indeed. There's quite a lot of action coming up over the coming weeks, which does include us here on the USF 2000 Series Championship. So myself, Alex Goldschmidt and Chris Buxton will be your official commentators for the 5 weeks as Hans Hannes now goes across the line and goes P5, just 6 tenths. But it's... Keen Butler in the moment, leading from Dean Vella. Then it's Tanel Kasissalu from Estonia, who is a normal regular on here. David Kalosai, I think this is the first time we've seen him. He's been competing in other championships, predominantly in endurance racing, as Hans Hannes lights up the rear tyres and sends the back end of the car going sideways towards the right-hand side. But all, at the moment here, Chris, the top 11... where we've got Alexi Maisin from Unison Racing, just 1.966 seconds off of Butler at the moment, who is who's leading the times with just over 5 minutes to go in the session.
That's a very Brawn F1 flavoured livery we're looking at on the 91 car, isn't it? But yeah, the top times are quite tight. We are seeing a bit of spread, but don't take that too seriously. We still have the qualifying session to come. This is a free practice session at the moment, but it is good to see how the pecking order is beginning to form. And it's something I talk about quite a lot in commentary is the mind game, is the mental aspect of certainly real races. There's always an element of that. We've seen that in all levels of all categories, but it is just as strong in the sim racing world. If you can prove yourself in practice, particularly if you're setting times that others can only dream of, it really does help kind of get under the skin of your competitors a little bit, and also it proves to you where your pace realistically is. It's all well and good putting in the time and the practice away from your fellow competitors, but you don't know realistically where you are until you are on track with them. As we now switch to currently 6th place Silva Vieira, who's being chased by that Brawn-ish car of Hans Hannes. Hans has just backed off. I was just about to say, I wonder if they're going to continue to kind of fight each other as almost like a race practice. But Hans has backed out of that one. That's not going to help his times being that close to someone during the practice session. So at the moment the time's proving quite close, and as we've been talking, Hans has actually jumped up into third position, just 2 and a bit tenths behind Keenan Butler at the moment. Does Rui Silva Vieira improve? Not on that occasion, and he's pulled over, let someone come out of the pits there. Now switching to Nicholas Vaya in the 17 car. 1.2 off the pace, which in some categories is a lot, but in these lighter power cars, especially in such a twisty track such as this, 1.2 seconds is not an insurmountable number. Oh, never mind. Mr. Vella, Dean Vella from GT Omega RPM Esports, 0.02 of a second off the top spot.
Well, would you believe that? And that's only in free practice. And we still have a 15-minute qualifying session, then a 30-minute sprint race. It is 18 points for a victory, 15 for second, 13 for third, and then from 4th to 13th, it's 10-1. But then also the interesting dynamic here, Chris, with the additional points or subtraction of points that might come into play. A no-show for a round is -10. If you've led the most laps in the race, it's an additional 5 points. Fastest lap, it's 5 points. Consistency and starting the race, you get an additional point for either or for both individually. But then pole position nets you a whopping 10 points. Now, obviously, my experience of having points for pole position started with DTM when they started that off, I think, 2018. Where it's 3 points for pole, 2 points for second in quali, and then a point for P3. However, this is really an interesting dynamic in just, I wouldn't say the words in how convoluted the points will get, but how interesting that someone could be 10 points behind or 9 points behind going into Alton Park and takes a pole position, and it makes that ultra bit of difference for the final race of the season.
Yeah, I must admit that's a first for me to see a huge emphasis put on the pole position slot, and I'm very intrigued to see how that plays out in the season for exactly the reason you just said. It's very easy to kind of give up on the season, isn't it? You know, you've fallen, 12 points behind with one race to go. You might just think, oh, well, I'll just chuck in the towel. Whereas there is a very clear and definitive means to get to earn those extra points to hopefully propel you towards the top. Pole position might, maybe there, maybe not, but all it takes is one mistake from your competitors and you're right back in the game again. So, yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how that works out.
Indeed. So we're getting to the last 60 seconds of the session. Kean Butler still leading by 2 1,000ths ahead of Dean Vella at this particular moment. Hans Hannes as Stephen Johnson from RDS Motorsport. That was a brave charge, my good man. Oh my goodness me! You can tell that these drivers are really, really. They're getting a real feel for the track now, even though it's free practice. But one of the big things we both know here, Chris, is that in qualifying, it's about that the times will do the talking, not what your actions do out on track.
Completely. And it was a lovely scrap here. Stephen Johnson with that kind of made me think the livery he's got on that car that's quite a different one. That's it kind of made me think of lest we forget, almost a remembrance type of livery. That's what it initially made me think of. As the checker flag is now out on this session. As a reminder, as Alice just said, it is a practice session only, so this does not dictate the grid. It's there for everybody to get a feel for the car, the track, the conditions, etc. There is a practice winner, you can argue, no points for it. Oh, the tail getting very lively coming out of that tight right-hander. It would seem that Kean really has got has got this. Now he's kicking the tail out. Although, just as I said that, I commentator cursed him. He flew off the road. But what we saw there was we saw Kean really kicking the tail out. That may be the way he prefers to do it. But we saw a number of drivers, particularly earlier in that section, just gently drifting the car rather than the tail doing all the talking. You get the turning done early and just let the inertia take the car sideways. Some people really really work well in that situation. Others prefer the tail happy version, and then you catch the slide. All well and good, looks heroic if you catch the slide. You can kind of see where this sentence is going. If you don't,
if you don't catch the slide, it can go south rather quickly. in other words.
Yes. You'll be off into the dark wondering why on earth you did it that way in the first place.
It's like, I should have put 40% throttle down, not 50%. That's how, incremental things can be. But obviously going through corners such as Tonnantino, Variante Po, where you got the chicane before Quadra Uno, where we saw Kian Butler go sideways and literally go full-on Tokyo drift in a USF 2000 car. But it's going to be a rather interesting challenge for the drivers tonight. We've got a 15-minute qualifying session coming up, and the old adage rings true, and it's going to be the case over the next 5 weeks. Times are for show, points are to go, Chris.
Completely, as we are now in the 15-minute quali session, and looking at the Estonian of Tanel Kasasalu in the 88 car, beginning to, you can see not everybody has come out immediately, and timing is going to be, it is going to be crucial to a point, but the session is long enough for these drivers to get several time laps out. This isn't a Spa or a Le Mans where you realistically only have one attempt at it. And we'll see that yellow flag warning pop up as people are just giving themselves that little bit of space. As we're coming through Ramata now onto the back straight, heading down towards Cavaniela. So some very, very tricky corners these guys have, of course, been practicing. And some of them, that's a bit of a lock-up there from Tanel. That won't help this particular time. But again, the conditions will have changed slightly, even though we've just gone from one session to the next. There will be subtle differences. The grip is going to be a little bit different. Not 100% sure how much fuel they're carrying, so the weight may be slightly different. But Tanel doing what he can to get as far up the grid as he possibly can now, coming into Quattro Uno. And there's that, starting to get the tail a little bit lively. Looks like he's gone for a bit. Yeah, there was a bit more of a four-wheel drift coming through Quattro Duo. Now into Dogado, which is quite a tricky corner, sort of three corners in one almost, through that particular section. Now coming down towards the end of the lap, De La Fonte to complete the lap. There's a very easy place to wander wide and bounce over the grass. And first time coming onto the boards, of course, he's light up the timing board in purple because he's the first one with the time of 14.7. So we'll expect some improvements from that. And of course, Villa getting 14, all the fours. I approve immediately.
Yeah, Hans Hannes goes, it's all changing as David Kalosai from Mugen Sim Racing has just put in a blinder, a 1 minute 13.6. Kian Butler up in sector 1 by over a tenth, but goes completely sideways coming out of De La Fonte. So that's going to be a case of reset, go again. Max Carrion in the 83, currently P13 at the moment. Top 9 have set a lap time so far as Kian Butler actually goes up to provisional pole ahead of David Kalosai by 43 thousandths of a second, a 1 minute 13.563. Rui Silva Vieira rounds out the top 3, exactly 7.5 tenths behind Butler. Dean Vella, then it's Hans Hannes. And then we've got the number 14, who's just under a second behind. Kasisalu, the initial pace setter, well, it was more like a banker lap, really, Chris. He's still in P7, and it's a fraction ahead of Birch in the 72.
Still plenty of time for the drivers to do something about their positions, though. Yeah, so Kian, we did see that lag moment happen, but it looked like he'd overcooked the exit of that final turn, but he obviously hadn't, as he has put that 13.5 on the... Oh, that's a lively livery. You won't miss Casey in a hurry with that one.
Yeah, Casey Lagarde. So, yeah. Crikey. That's definitely the brightest livery I think I've seen on any car here on World Pro Racing, and it just had to be on a USF 2000, as now Casey will make his way through into De La Fonte. Up in both, set personal bests in both sectors 1 and 2. Now pushes the 170 brake horsepower 2-litre engine to its maximum, a 1 minute 15.845. And it looks like Vance Lagarde is down a little bit further. Dominic Hustermeyer up in sector, has done a personal best in sector 2, goes across the line and goes up a position, deposing Alexei Maisin from Unison Racing down into 12th position. as Dean Vella looks to have done a personal best in Sector 1. So for those wondering if you aren't a racing aficionado, let us give you a bit of homeschooling 101. If it's yellow, then it means it's a drop on the previous lap. If it's green, it's an improvement or a personal best. And then purple is outright the fastest person out on the circuit. And Dean Vella looks like he's absolutely chomping at the bit in that number 54 GT Omega RPM Esports USF 2000 there, Chris. He's absolutely manhandling it, grabbing it by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, he's meaning business, isn't he? He wants advancement towards the sharper end. As Casasali, who's jumped up to 7th in the 88 car, the Estonian. Good improvement there. And that's third.
If you want to use the modern variety of it now, the Team RJN Rocket Motorsport colours from British GT, and also JBXE Racing for for Extreme E, where Jenson Button is partnered with Sweden's Mikaela Ahlin Kotelinski in the first season, which gets underway in just a couple of weeks' time. Hans Hannes decides that's enough for now. But we've still got just over half the session at the moment. So it is Butler leading from Kalosai. Vella in the 54 rounds out the top three, covered by exactly 71 thousandths of a second. A very, very hotly contested qualifying. There's Jan Dix from Team Schmoken in the number 14. That gives me a bit of reminiscence about maybe a bit of Minardi with a bit of Ferrari thrown in at the back of it.
I can see exactly where you're going with that. Someone's kicked up a bit of dust in his face. I think, Jorn's backed off here. He doesn't like being that close to the car in front of him. Don't blame him. If you catch the car in front of you at the right time, you'll get a lovely slipstream off them. But this track doesn't really have huge straights. The exception of here. If you catch someone at the right time along this straight, you could benefit to a point. But Jorn has done the right thing and just backing away from the car ahead of him. And giving it a go. So it's actually his teammate. I just realised they're both wearing the same colours.
That's Andy Birch in the 72. Now, where is Birch at the moment? He's P9. Now that's a bit of a moment there for Birch.
I think he was trying to get out of the way more than anything else. But there it is. And he's just been knocked out. Meisen. That's Alexei Meisen has jumped up into 6th position there, I think, in the 83 car. The Team Schmoking guys, they're doing that slipstreaming trick. You're seeing one of them get out of the way, give the lap essentially to one of them, and then you'll see them swap around. Hopefully. That's how it typically works, unless one of them just wants to go for gold and the other one's not bothered on where they qualify. With a 30-minute race, I would not suggest that. If it was a 2-hour race, qualifying is less important. But with the 30-minute race that we have, qualifying is going to be crucial.
Yeah, very much the case. And when you think about it, between Tanel Kassasalu in the 88 and Jan Dix in the number 14, they are covered by exactly 0.107 seconds. Good evening to one of our fellow commentators here on World Pro Racing. Good evening, Kieran McGinley. Good evening also to Dan Ginchard, Luke Whitehead, Sheldon Muscat, as Alexei Meisen decides that's it. I'm going to park it in the pits for the moment. But Dean Vella goes provisional pole with 5.5 minutes left on the clock. A 1 minute 13.525. And that has really got it all mouth-watering here tonight here at Adria, Chris, because Vella, Butler and Kalosai split by 81 thousandths of a second.
and Vela found less than a tenth, or about a tenth of a second. That's all he found to get that all crucial pole, and still has to hold it for another 5 minutes, so he could still improve again. So yeah, this isn't done and dusted by any stretch. We don't know if Keane is out there. Oh, there's that brightly flavoured car of Lagarde that we just saw getting out of the way of this lap from Silva Vieira. Currently in fourth for half a second down at the moment. So looking at the low 14, what's he got on the board this time? That was a 15, so a lap of nothing basically, but pushing on nonetheless. What can you? There is Kian Butler in the 007, the Lightspeed Esports car. Where is he? He's coming into Grotto Uno at the moment, I think. So, Birch, we were talking about him earlier. He's just jumped up into sixth position, but I think there's going to be more improvement to be found from the Team Schmoken pair. But you can just tell by the car, that was Cavanello when we first picked him up, as Kian now goes through Torrentino. But wow, you can just tell by the behavior of the car, he's pushing pretty hard. Not seeing what the sectors are looking like at the moment. But
I think that's more of an outlap, to be honest with you. I think Kian's just getting those tyres up to temp on that USF 2000, and then just really deciding to push, because he'll want to get that 10 points, because effectively by getting that 10 points, you've got bragging rights going to the first round of the season, and also everyone's going to have that warning shot fired across the bow, well and truly.
But also, you've got that big 10-point bonus that the pole position carries. So, qualifying is absolutely crucial, especially as the season is only 5 weeks long. You don't have lots of time to make up for lost points. So that pole position is going to be very, very hotly contested. It already is, with 4 drivers within 0.3 of a second. 3 of them within a single tenth. By the way, that's quicker than you can blink, and that's purple sector 1 for Butler by, again, a very narrow margin. We're talking very narrow margins across the board. So can Butler then carry that, improved pace? Oh, again, the tail's gone loose, and that's off into the dust. Oh no, has Butler got enough time? Well, if he gets on with it, yes, he does have enough time to come out and get on with it. But to now Vieira, no pole time, that's Kalasai. My goodness me, whilst we were looking away, David Kalasai has bunged in a 13.341. Well. We were looking at Butler and Vela for a potential pole battle, and Kalasai's his own in this fight as well.
Yeah, and he's up by 1/1000th in Sector 1. Quicker in Sector 1 than he was previously. Dean Vela now responds and puts in a time that is just over a tenth of a second slower in the 54. Butler still in third place. Casisolo, Silva Vieira, Jon Dix. Then you got also Birch in the Andy Birch in the number 72. Alexei Meisin in the 83. Hans Hannes in the 91. And then Nicola Vea from VX Competition in the 17. They're all covered by 1.139 seconds. We're into the last 2 minutes of qualification, and David Kalasai has just dropped nearly, 3/4 of a tenth in Sector 2. But is he going to pull that time back here in Sector 3? He comes out of the final corner, pushes across towards the finish line here at Adria International Raceway. 1 minute 13.550, and if he hadn't lost all that time, I think he would have been literally a couple of thousandths quicker than the previous time round, Chris.
And as I thought he would, out comes Butler again. Hopefully he's not too frustrated with himself with that one mistake that he made last time out. So he just needs to calm it down and focus on what he's doing, which is very easy to say from the commentary box. I've been in the position where you've set what you thought was an absolute certainty for a good result, and that then gets beaten. So you just instinctively go out there and try and do better. He just needs to push to within the limits of the car, within the limits of his talent, which is clearly quite vast. And it's purple sector 1 again. So less than half a tenth up, but again, pole is pole, no matter by what margin you do it. So he's come out of Cavanella down to Torrentino. As he comes through that, this is where it went wrong for him before. Again, he seems to like the tail loose version of the sliding car rather than the four-wheel drifting that we see most others do. Now into Valianti Po and then Quadro. Oh, that's a long way off, but he does manage to keep it on the road. Ooh, is that going to cost him his time? Is that going to come with a paycheck? We will see. Through there we go. It's cost him huge. He's, I mean, if he makes up that much time in the final sector, no, he's parked it. Oh, he'll be kicking himself for that.
Right, checkered flag out for the session. David Kalasai is the one with the bullseye in the back of that rear bumper, effectively, with the time. Dean Vella at the moment, this is going to be his final attempt. It's not going to be enough for the Maltese driver, as he will come through De La Fonte for the final time, as that looks to be Hans Hannes, I think, that has just exited into the pit lane. But Dean Vella, despite his best efforts, will not be able to surmount an offensive towards David Kalasai. And Kalasai takes pole position by just over a tenth of a second. Nicolas Vieira out at the moment, currently in P10, is up in Sector 1. And has just had a massive moment there, going through Quadro Due and then into Delgado, which is basically you take Pouon, add another corner, and then flip it 180 degrees to a mirror-like. That's what you get with Delgado. But Nicolas Vieira, he's lost an absolute handful of time, and he was down by nearly half a second in Sector 2. Nicolas Vieira comes across the line, a 1 minute 14.444. But Chris, that was a dynamite lap from Mugen Sim Racing's David Kalasai, nipping Dean Vella by just over a tenth within the last 3 minutes of the session.
He timed that perfectly well. That was brilliantly done. You've got to feel a bit bad for Kian. They're pushing probably a bit too hard, went a little bit wide. We saw, those last laps at the end there as well get a little bit interrupted by some of the traffic going on. But wow, if this is a precursor to the race, this should be absolutely amazing. We will see. Can't wait to get underway.
Indeed, a 30-minute sprint race here at the USF 2000 Series Championship here, live and uninterrupted on World Pro Racing. Don't forget, you can head to our official website, worldproracing.com, to find out about all the other events that are taking place. So really, we're going to do a little bit of a build-up, because obviously we've got the USF 2000 Series here on Wednesday nights for the next 5 weeks. However, there's some events to tickle your fancy over the coming weeks or so. We've got the race at Karting Genk in Belgium, the 19th of March. That's this coming Friday. Entries are still open. There's still 10 slots available. We've then got the Nightmaster Part 2 at Suzuka, which is next Tuesday evening. We've then got we'll be back for round 2 of the World Pro Racing USF 2000 Series, which will head to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll then have also the 2 hours of Mount Panorama Casual Race. We've also got the Italian job on the 30th of March, which includes the Italian circuits of Monza and Imola. And there is a regulation that you have to use either the Lamborghini or the Ferrari, but you have to use both cars, and you actually can get disqualified for using the same car twice. And also, we've got the beginning of the HyperX Open Series starting on the 2nd of April at Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. And that's round 1, and that will be happening. There are giveaways. Rounds 1 and 2 are fully subscribed, so head to worldproracing.com, click on the events page, and see if you can get registered. But Chris, we talked about the fact that, obviously, the words, as I said before we started qualifying, times are for show, points are to go. This is where things really kickstart into high gear here at USF 2000 here on World Pro Racing.
Somewhat, and what a benchmark that's been set. Kian Butler was the one that was quickest in practice, and for a while was quickest in quali. But my goodness me, I think we're in for an absolute treat. But yeah, like you say, that the times are all well and good, but it all comes down to how it happens in the race. And one mistake is all it takes is a phrase I say, and it's not always your own mistake that you're caught up in. And we all know what single seaters are like at close range. You get this many very very hotly contested, very closely matched drivers in a very narrow ribbon of tarmac. Well, we've all seen it happen, and we'll see who survives well coming into turn 1.
Yeah, the thing is, at the moment they're just having a warm up. Obviously, that will help the drivers just to sort of acclimatise, and also in some respects, Chris, this is a perfect opportunity just to try and get those that heart rate down a little bit, get themselves a bit more calm and composed. But then we know that the minute the red mist descends, any driver worth their salt is going to want to gun that throttle, get absolutely no wheel spin off the start phase, because it is going to be a formation lap, and then we're going to have a standing start, traditional in single-seater racing. That's where the tension's not going to build just for them, but also for us here in commentary.
Absolutely, it will. Yeah, like you say, there are going to be some drivers that prefer to just kind of get in and get on with it. There'll be those that kind of relish in all the build-up. I'm very much the former. I don't like waiting too long before the lights go out and we get on with the racing, but that's generally invariably before I end up stacking it. So just want to kind of get on with that bit. But these guys are going to put on a great show. I have no doubt about that. But there's going to be fighting everywhere. I mean, again, you may well have had the sort of top three that were a little bit, I don't want to use the phrase breakaway, but there was a bit of a gap between third and fourth. But then you just had clumps of drivers very, very close together. So, no matter where you look, there's going to be some great racing going on.
Yes, indeed. The Adria International Circuit is the first of 5 rounds for this season. So Indianapolis Motor Speedway round 2 in a week's time. 2 weeks after, a week later is Portimao on the 31st of March. We then see in April, courtesy of round 4 out of 5, Watkins Glen, a fantastic in its own right. It's hosted IMSA, it's hosted IndyCar over the years, and it is one track that really does test the drivers in terms of the sort of the different what's the word I'm looking for? Ascents and descents. That was what I was looking for. There, you see, even I have Freudian slips when I try to think of the words that I'm looking for. But there's going to be a lot of different camber adjustments as well at circuits like Portimao. It'll also have its inclines and its descents as well. Alton Park, fantastically tight circuit. It's a staple in British GT and British Touring Car Championship folklore. And to have the season conclude there, that's really given us an idea that we're going to have this nice sort of meaty bit in the middle, and then you're going to have the 2 races, one at each side of the championship, where you're just going to think this could be rather too close for comfort. And that's very true with Adria and Alton Park, Chris.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Now, Alton Park, I was going to say I'm looking forward to the most, and every time I think about the neat track that you mentioned in order, I then think, oh no, but that's a great track. Portimao, for instance, as we mentioned before we came on air, is one of my all-time favorites. I adore the Portimao circuit, and I loved seeing it back on the F1 calendar last year. Watkins Glen, a former Formula One circuit itself, is seen, like you say, so many different categories of racing go on there. Alton Park, really, really narrow. It's a very big staple in the British Touring Car Championship. It's amazing seeing 40-plus, touring cars banging doors and what have you, going through the very tight and twisty circuit that's Alton Park, because these things can't do that. Well, they can try. It won't tend to go very well if they try and kind of barge their way through. But that, again, is going to be a real test of these drivers on how well they can just keep that patience, but keep the pressure on the guy in front of them and equally deal with the pressure. Now, of course, they've got that in every circuit we go to, but someone like Alton Park is so narrow that a single mistake is so costly. But here we go, heading to the grid for round number 1.
Yep, so the timer counting down. David Kalasai and Dean Vella are on the front row of the grid. Now we get the rolling start. Well, we get the formation lap underway. So, round 1 of the World Pro Racing USF 2000 Series Championship, here with Alex Goldschmidt and Chris Buxton. Let's take you through who our drivers are that are going to be starting in the respective order. So David Kalasai has already got himself 11 points, because it is a point for every driver that starts each race. He is leading the championship after one frantic 15-minute qualifying session on 11 points, ahead of Dean Vella from GT Omega RPM Esports. Then it's Keen Butler in the number 7. He rounds out the top 3 ahead of Tanel Cassis Salu. Then it's Hans Hannes in the 91. Rui Silva Vieira in the 6th position in the 27. Then it's Team Schmoken's Jan Dix in the number 14. Then he's got alongside him Andy Birch, his teammate, funnily enough. So the Team Schmoken cars on row 4. Alexei Maizin in the 83 rounds out the top 9. And alongside we'll have Nicolas Vayer in the VX competition number 17 car. Then you got Max Carrion in the 83. Dominic Rustermeier in the 92. Steve Johnson from RDS Motorsport in 13th in the 85. And then rounding out the top 15, it looks like we have got the number 21. That is of Darrell Russell from Atlantic Motorsport, the teammate to Silva Vieira. And it looks like Casey Lagarde is starting from the pit lane. So I'm not too sure whether they've had an issue, but here is the starting order, as you can see. So Kalasai from Butler, well, it should show Vela on the front row of the grid there. So you've got Kalasai leading the way. So these drivers now getting some important heat into the carcass of the tyres, and also what that does, Chris, is heats up the wheels on these cars, which in turn heats up the brakes.
Absolutely they do, as the drivers now coming to retake their grid positions for the all-crucial standing start. This is where the nerves, especially for those at the front that are having to wait the longest, are going to be jangling. 30-minute race soon to get underway. It is time to wind them up and let them go. Who's going to be bravest on the brakes? That's a storming start from Butler on the second row. Can he turn that into an overtake? He's already up into second. Oh, impact there with Valo coming into turn 1. Oh, we got something in the grass. Yes, Casalu. Yeah, that well spotted. Hannes has had to go wide to try to avoid that becoming a bigger issue. But what a start from Butler coming up into second. Hannes he's slanted into 4th position there. Whoa, that's the 007 car of Kieran Butler getting very, very lively. There's Ruiz Silva Vieira fighting his way up into 7th position. Great start, no major incidents. It looks like still over the side. Oh, that's a big number. Well held by both drivers.
Yeah, Alexei Maizin going up the inside of Ruiz Silva Vieira. And then you've got Vaella just behind as well. Birch in 10th place. But Kalasai now has a lead of just over 0.8 of a second ahead of Kian Butler. Dean Vella rounds out the top 3. Kasisalu was very, very lucky there. I think both he and Hans Hannes, I think they've counted their chickens before they hatched. But also the fact that they've got many of their 9 lives remaining at this particular moment. Round to complete lap number 1. It is Mugen Sim Racing's David Kalasai ahead of Kian Butler in the number 7. Dean Vella from GT Omega RBM Esports rounds out the top 3. Hannes being pressured by Kasisalu with Jon Dix and Alexei Maizin not too far away from each other. And it looks like Jon Dix has got a little bit of an advantage over the number 83 Silva Vieira in the 27 from Atlantic Motorsport. Still keeping in touch with the 83 from Unison Racing, down for 7th and 8th position with Vieira, Birch, Johnston, Carrion, Rustermeier. That's Russell, and then we see the ever so brightly coloured car, the number 3 of Matrix Motorsports, Casey Lagarde, here on lap number 2 with just 28 minutes remaining on the clock.
Indeed, so Kalasai doing exactly what he needs to do to build up a bit of a lead. So here's a replay of the start. So we're looking at our leader Kalasai, and just look at the launch that Butler had there from that second row. Vela really did bog down, even though we got a bit of a tap on the front there. Then we see Hannes and Kasisalu in the background of the shot get together. Look how wide Hannes had to go to regain control of the car. I think Kasisalu rather backed out of that to let Hans back into position, which was fair play for him. Kalasai with the new fastest lap. He's continuing to build that lead up front. There he is in the 20 car. Vela, he's falling a bit back. I'm a little surprised, really, that Vela is falling back the way he is. Dean Vela is seemingly struggling at this stage, but we'll see. Just kind of get the nerves back under control. Looks like Hans Hannes is actually on Vela's case for 3rd position. He's gotten a bit away from Kasisalu. The battle is changing a little bit for that last podium spot. There's Max Carrion, who was at the back of quite a long train. That train split up a little bit now, it looks like. Oh, that's Maizin. Maisin's gone a little bit. That hasn't gone well at Tarantino for him. He's side by side. Oh, with that's Vaya. He's alongside. Yeah, Nicholas Vaya in the 17. Well driven from both of them. But that's why one mistake is very, very costly at this early stage.
Yeah, looks like Andy Birch trying to close in on them at the minute, but David Kalasai has the fastest lap at this particular moment in time. He also has led the most laps, so that is an additional, when you look at it, that is an additional 10 points in addition to the 21 that he's currently got. But Keane Butler now starting to strike back. The number 7 from Lightspeed Esports. Look, the gap's come down. It's saying on the screen that it's about 9/10, but the way that Keane Butler's wrestling with the number 7, as they now go in, all bit of a lock up there from Keane Butler, trying to close in on David Kalasai. Dean Vella has got Hans Hannes not too far behind, as in the picture-in-picture we're actually going on board on the 007 from Keane Butler, trying to do his level best. But as a result of that lock-up there, Chris, he's lost an absolute bag full of time to David Kalasai.
That's half a second in one sector that's gone the way of Kalasai now. But that lovely onboard shot we see in the bottom right really shows that this is not an easy car to drive, particularly at pace. You might be able to do a slow lap fairly easily, but you can just see how many steering corrections the Keane's having to make to get the best out of the car. And now with that one mistake he's made, that's bringing Dean Vella back into contention, and he's dragging Hans Hannes with him, who really has dropped Cassisardi quite dramatically. Now there is the fifth place Estonian, as we now look again at Dean Vella just continuing to maintain his pace, trying to maintain the pressure on Keane Butler. That gap up front now 1.8 seconds. Hans Hannes is probably just kind of loitering there to keep the slipstream, keep maintaining his position. He's not in a position really that he can try and directly put pressure on for that third position just yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if Vella is really trying to hone in on Keane Butler. But whilst they do that, of course, they're going to let Kalasai dance off into the sunset.
Yeah, I think one of the other things is that you do actually get points for consistency in each round as well, and something that's going to be very much on the mind of Dean Vella as we head back to now the number 83 of Max Carrion, who is we were briefly with Carrion, who was closing on Steve Johnson, Nicolas Valleja closing on Rui Silva Vieira from Atlantic Motorsport. This is the battle for 7th position, but just up ahead, Jan Dix in the Team Schmoking number 14. This is now coming through the final corner della Roggia, and you can just see this trio is getting rather concertinaed, but Nicolas Valleja in the number 17 trying to close on Silva Vieira, and the gap between them is just over 3.5 tenths of a second as they go into the first corner. A bit too much curb taken there by Nicolas Valleja, nearly makes the number 17 stumble coming out of the exit of the first corner, and that gives a bit more of an advantage and a bit more breathing space for Rui Silva Vieira as they both close on the number 14 of Jan Dix from Team Schmoken.
Yep, absolutely. A wonderful battle forming here in the upper midfield. There's Max Carrion again, who really has kept Steve Johnson straight and true. That they've been that close all race long as they come into the hairpin again of Tarantino. There's the onboard from the 83 car. It is as close as you think it is between the two. I mean, Max is that close that he probably knows what flavour chewing gum that Steve Johnson's chewing on at the moment. So, yeah, and it has its own difficulties being that close, especially on a twisty track, because the slipstream's all well and good, but there are times when you do need that little bit of downforce to help you through the corner. But it doesn't seem to be putting Max Carrion off, and Steve Johnson doing very, very well to maintain the pressure. Oh, that's a tad deep. Well, that's a great drift from the 83. It's not the quickest way, but it is a flashy way of doing it.
Well, yeah, I mean, back in the day when, going sideways was rapid, but nowadays with the amount of aerodynamic technological advancements and also modern day motorsport, things have changed. Oh, that's wide from Johnson. Oh, Max Carrion's got a real good run, and that's coming out of Ramata all the way up towards Cavanella. So Max Carrion looking to get the march on Steve Johnson from RDS Motorsport in the 85 through Cavanella. Now they're going to go down the short blast down towards Tornantino, the tight right-hand hairpin here in smack bang middle in the circuit. before the run-up to Variante Po, and then Quadra Uno, Quadra Due. So we'll just keep for this with this battle for the moment. But in the meantime, David Kalasai has now got a lead of over 2.5 seconds ahead of Kian Butler, make that 2.7 seconds as we now switch our way back to the number 20. But we still got the battle between Johnson and Carrion very much in our eyesight. And Carrion's trying to do everything he can in his power. Oh, and he nearly goes into the back of Johnson, puts on the brakes, stops immediately, and that means that Carrion's just been passed by Rustemeyer in the number 92. Oh, dramas for him. And he's lost the back end coming out of De La Fonte. Mamma mia. Mercy, mercy me. That is disaster for Max Carrion. He was in a prime position. Maybe if he'd got past Steve Johnson to maybe go after Andy Birches. Oh, Rustemeyer has his own moment going through Ramata. We're now going to have a look at the replay. Now, this is where you see, now there was a little bit of a tag, and he literally lit up the front anchors on that 83, did Max Carrion, and then all of a sudden Dominic Rustemeyer went round the outside. He did a bit of an M&M there and went, thank you very much, I'll take that one. And again, Carrion having an absolute mare coming through De La Fonte.
Frustration on frustration as he's got into the back of Steve Johnson. He's tried to, he slammed on the anchors and then tried to pull away in the wrong gear. You saw the car just went nowhere. Oh no, Rustemeyer's off. So Rustemeyer's not held the pressure very well. I think he came into that chicane a little bit hard, but now Max Carrion's got a bit carried away and is trying to sail off the road himself. Max, he's full of frustration at the moment. He knows that he was in a prime position to challenge for that top 10, well, certainly for that 11th spot, potentially on towards, trying to challenge for the top 10. He needs to just calm himself down, get back into the rhythm and see if he's able to close that gap down between himself and Johnson. If he just keeps on pushing too hard, if he keeps letting the frustration get the better of him, he's just going to be off into the dust every 5 minutes. Again, I know, easy for me to say in the commentary box, I've been in the position where you make a mistake and you're just beating yourself up about it. It doesn't serve you to do it. So he just needs to, reset the mind, get back into the rhythm, refocus, and close back in on Steve Johnson if he's able to. As we look at David Kalasai, who's having just a fairly easy Sunday jaunt at this stage. As the inside there is Vela on the back of Kian Butler. So the battle for second is raging on as Butler is deep. He's gone for a bit of a deep line through that double left-hander. He has been able to maintain the momentum, though, coming out of that. That was Delgado that he was just going through. So now coming through Dolafente. Now onto the start-finish straight heading towards Ramata once again. There is the leader. There is Kalasai. So they can see the leader just edging away, lap on lap, getting further and further away from them. But I would imagine Dean Vella is not going to want to sit behind Kian Butler for too long.
No, I think you're absolutely right there, Chris. But one of the other things is that consistency wins the championship. Kalasai, he's on his way, and he's 3.3 seconds in the lead ahead of Kian Butler as we are back with Dean Vella from GT Omega RPM Esports. I know that Sheldon Muscat is cheering his fellow Maltese compatriot on at this particular moment in time, but top 13 score points. I mean, even though if, the way that the points are, 13 points at the beginning of the season isn't going to be too bad, but then when you have 10 points for pole position, Kalasai is probably grinning like the proverbial Cheshire Cat at the moment. But as you said, the consistency also depends on how consistent you are over those laps. Are you going to push? Are the tyres dropping off? Are they degrading? As now we go back to Dean Vella, and he is absolutely giving Kian Butler the hurry up there in the 007, and Butler knows it, and he says, I know I want to fight with this guy, but I want to catch up with Kalasai. And the biggest problem is Kalasai is nearly 4 seconds up the road, and whilst these two battle, Kalasai, he's just cantering away like a prime racehorse with not a care in the world.
He's loving life at the moment as the number 20 car, and quite rightly so. He's in that, he's got his eye on pole, and again Butler is wide. The tail of that car is just not behaving itself as much as he would like. Now that is a prime opportunity for Velo. He's gone the inside line through Tarantino. Can he get it done side by side? Slight bit of impact between the two. What a great drive from that hairpin from Kian Butler. He managed to keep his cool, knowing that the rear tyres had let go on him a few corners ago, and Vela is now all over the curb trying to do something to regain that second position, but that was brilliantly driven from the Lightspeed Esports driver of Kian Butler to regain that second spot. Of course, that has cost them both time, and it's going to continue to cost them both time. But you tell two drivers from different teams to work together, forget it. They're there for their own positions. Also, there he is, Hans Hannes, at the bottom of the shot there. That is helping him gain on that particular battle, so don't discount him to be in this podium battle before the checker flag falls.
Neither don't count out Estonia's Tanel Kassasalu in the 88, because obviously in the initial replay that we saw that Kassasalu had a little bit of wheel interlocking with Hans Hannes, and then that pitched the Estonian sideways going into Ramata. But you can now see how close Dean Vela, he knows that he can push as they now come out of the corner, and they're going to head into the braking zone into Tonantino. Vela decides not to go for it this time. He was not close enough for an opportunity as they now head their way down into the right-left chicane at Variante Po before Quadra Uno. So Dean Vela, you can see we're actually on board, and look, Vela takes an absolutely tighter line there through Quadra Uno and then Quadra Due. Oh my goodness, I mean, Dean Vela is hell-bent on getting second position off of Kian Butler, and Butler just literally, he plants the car exactly where he needs to. That was going through Delgado into De La Fonte. Dean Vela must be thinking right now, Mr. Buxton, what on earth do I need to do to get past Butler? But Butler makes a mistake. The tail end went happy towards the left-hand side coming out of De La Fonte. Dean Vela looking to get the cutback through into Ramata, but no dice yet for the GT Omega RPM eSports car. Oh, but that's close coming out of Ramata. Dean Vela right in the slipstream. He's nigh on bump drafting on Kian Butler, and this is going to be rather close going into the next few corners. Oh my goodness me, through into Cavanella. Oh, Butler runs wide, a bit of drift to the right-hand side for Dean Vela. This battle not over yet as they're now hurtling their way down into Tonantino. And again, Vela has to put the brakes on rather sharpish and rather early. Wow, this is a dynamite battle here, and this is for P2. Kalasai is now 6 seconds up the road from this pair.
The only person that can stop Kalasai is Kalasai now, with half the race now done, 6 seconds to the good. We've all seen it happen, and I will take full responsibility for the commentator's curse if it does happen. But what we're seeing here is Kian Butler really feeling the pressure now. He's having to take those defensive lines. He's relied very much on his raw speed, which of course has been very impressive. As again, a little bit, he prefers that deeper line into that De La Fonte hairpin that gives him a greater exit speed. But he's having to take those defensive lines. We saw him go very early to the inside line at Ramata last time around, and Dean Vela has just matched him corner for corner. Butler has not been able to shake him off. Again, there's Hans Hannes in the background, and Kassasalu not far behind either. I mean, these two come together, they're in a brilliant position to capitalize on it. But Dean Vella's done an absolutely storming job on keeping on the back of and Kian Butler's done a very good job of defending as well for this length of time. Again, Vela looking at the inside line coming into Tarantino. We've seen him try that move before. He managed to nose ahead just briefly of Kian Butler at that very corner only a few laps ago, and Kian will know that. He'll know where he's weak against the number 54. Oh, I thought Dean was going to spin it there, but he actually used the apex to help rotate him round. You can see he's now trying to use those curves to rotate him around. As Case of the Guard sadly has got himself a penalty down in 14th position, so his race not going particularly well. But Vela's doing an absolutely brilliant job just maintaining that position. I mean, he could easily just steam into the back of the number 7 and hasn't done so. He's been very, very close, but he's doing absolutely everything he can, and Kian is responding so far, but Kian really is showing signs that he is struggling.
Yeah, Kian Butler at one moment, if that car goes completely sideways, Dean Vela will be like a rat up a drain pipe getting that second position. As now they hurtle their way all the way down back to Cavanella once again. Dean Vela looking to go a little bit later on the brakes in comparison with Kian Butler. And the reason being is that Dean Vela is effectively using him as a marker board as to anticipate where he needs to brake. And I think what he prefers to do now going through Tonantino is to actually get a tighter line going through into the apex and then put the power down And you can see that from both cars, it's only when you get to Variante Po that you really see the different driving style. And I would think that possibly that for Casey Lagarde, I think that would be a track limits penalty. But you can see that through Quadra Due and through into the run down to Delgado, both Dean Vella and Cian Butler was very much on the same racing line. So this battle not well and truly over and done with yet. But look at it from this perspective. We saw that Hans Hannes, Chris, was catching up, but he's actually well over 3 seconds adrift down in 4th position. So I think Butler and Vella, whilst battling, they've been pushing each other forward to try and catch up with Kalasai. As bump over the curves through Ramata from Dean Vella there. That was absolutely close, and a bit too close for comfort for, I think, for Dean Vella in that particular instance. But through Cavanella, it just seems that Cian Butler's just got Dean Vella's number at the moment here, Chris.
At the moment, yeah, everything that Vella has thrown at Cian's had an answer for. And Vella has been so close to Cian all race long. He knows what colour underpants that the Light Speed Esports driver's got. But yeah, also Hans Hannes made. We just saw as the camera cut away. He had a huge 4-wheel drift coming into the Della Fonte last time out. That cost him quite a lot of time. He's now being a little bit more hounded by Casasalu, so he's lost a huge chunk of time against that podium battle still raging on. As Lagarde has now come into the pits. Unfortunately, his race going from bad to disastrous. It was indeed a track limits penalty we saw being alerted earlier on. So his race not going well. And again, this Cian's car looking a little bit squiggly. It does look like that Cian's car just seems much more loose than Dean Vella's does. But at the moment, it is still working for the number 7. He's just able to position himself so much that Vella just can't get that additional run on Butler that he needs. I mean, trying to gain any speed on someone like Cian Butler is near impossible at the best of times, but both drivers did a great job in maintaining their positions.
Yeah, 9 minutes and 34 seconds still to go on the clock here on the first round out of 5 for the World Pro Racing USF 2000 Series Championship, live on eSports TV, motorsport.tv, TVM Sports in Malta, and also the World Pro Racing relevant streams on YouTube, Facebook and Twitch. Don't forget to head to worldproracing.com for any of the action. If you want to sign up, whether it's R Factor 2, Assetto Corsa Competizione, or even Gran Turismo Sports, have a look at our website and see if you can register and be part of the starting grid in maybe an event in the next couple of weeks or so. Nicolas Valleja is battling away with Alexei Maizin, and they are just about half a second apart from each other as the picture-in-picture, Dean Vella swarming all over the back bumper of Cian Butler as they now go into Ramata. Looks like Vella's got a clean run up the inside, but Butler cuts across the front of his nose cone there. Oh, that was brilliant stuff. Textbook from Cian Butler. I'm sure that Dean Vella will probably go, well, you know what, if I was half a car length closer to Cian Butler at that particular time going through Ramata, as Maizin looking up the inside of Valleja. Again now, look, I think Dean Vella's got the sign that he needs, which is, right, I need to get past him. Up the inside, through into Tonnantino. He runs a bit wide, Butler back up the inside, and then 7 gets the run. Vella gets a little bit squeezed going into Variante Po on the run down to it. Wow, my goodness me. I said the fireworks were starting tonight, but literally, Chris, these two have pulled the pin on their respective grenades and thrown it in the opposite direction to each other.
That's more than fireworks. That's a full bonfire going on between these two. They, of course, have been at it for so many laps that it's almost an accident inevitable, and so far they've been within just mere millimeters of each other at times, but haven't managed to hold it. Now finally Cian's got 0.4 of a second to himself, which must feel like acres compared to how it has been for so many laps now between these two. But again, Vella his car just looks so much more planted than Cian's does. It just looks like he's able to get the pace to maintain his pressure, but Cian has just kept his head and done exactly what he needs to do to either keep Dean behind him or counterattack when Dean has made those big moves. It's so easy to lose your head and panic under these sort of situations, or throw it away and bottle it under pressure. As we see there, wow, a lovely three-way scrap in the picture-in-picture there. That is a battle for 8th position via Misen and Birch in that particular fight. But yeah, I'm so impressed. Actually, with pretty much all of our drivers, we haven't seen a huge, colossal incidents. Now I've said it, wait for it. But
I'm going to do this.
Go on. Yeah, absolutely. But they've done brilliantly well to maintain that level of pressure this close for this long in cars that really are not. They're not straightforward cars. They may be very lightly powered, but because they're so slippery, it really takes a lot of skill to manhandle these things for this length of time, this close to somebody else. Oh no! I said it!
Oh my goodness me. Contact between Vela and Butler. They're going through into the Mata. And I think I just spotted, hang on a second, I'm just going to keep an eye out. Oh, Vela's he's lost the right front wing end plate. Oh my goodness me, this means that Vela, I saw a little bit of debris and I thought that might be someone's front wing going exit stage right. So Dean Vela's now got a wounded USF 2000 car and we've only got 5.5 minutes still to go. But what's more, okay, Van Diemen, well known within Formula Ford folklore, this is not stopping Dean Vela. He's absolutely chomping at the bit. And I think Kean Butler now goes, oh, the storm's coming my way. Yes, it is, Kean Butler. It's been coming for the last 20 or so minutes since you two got embroiled in your battle royale. And this is going to be rather interesting. I'm wondering if that incident might be investigated post-race. Not too sure. However, I think at the end of the day, for this race so far, between these two, Chris, it's been, and that's possibly Casey Lagarde that's just gone into the barriers, heading into the exit of Ramatas. Oh, nearly contact again between Butler and Vela. They are absolutely knocking each other's doors down like nobody's business, heading down into Cavanella. And again, Butler puts the anchors on, places the car where he needs to. Now you can see that Dean Vela is getting a little bit frustrated.
Yes, he's also running out of time. We only have 4.5 minutes to go before the checkered flag will fall. And Vela is not, well, he probably is feeling the effects of the lack of downforce of the front wing. Don't really have any high-speed corners here. So it's not going to be hurting him that badly. But what's hurting is Kean Butler's lack of tyres. I think he has just burnt those tyres to an absolute cinder. And that's what's kind of leveling the playing field. Vela had to pull out again. Oh, you don't expect many moves down like that on the inside of Kean Butler, but this time Kean's got no traction left to actually make the counterattack. But now Vela has got no slipstream ahead of him. Can he pull away? Was I right? Well, look at the gap that's already formed. That's only in 2 corners. I think Kean's got no grip left at all in those tyres. Now, if that is the case, he's going to struggle to maintain it in place. And there he goes. Look at that. Yeah, big lockup coming into the Ramata. That means he's going to really struggle. I mean, that's 6/10 now between the two. Hans Hannes, it is possible if he's got anything left in his tyres, he may well yet be able to nick the podium. He's going to have to really go for it and hope that Kean falls off the road, I think. But it is still possible.
Yeah, very much the case. So we have 3 minutes and 9 seconds still to go. David Kalasai has not been counting his chickens before they've hatched. He's just been keeping things nice and consistent and is on course for a maximum score this evening. I'm wondering if he has got the fastest lap. I'm not 100% sure. But at the moment, he will currently have 29 points. Well, he'll have led all the laps, so that's another 5 points. That's 34, I count. Possibly consistency, but Dean Vela, for sheer absolute, in the words of Vincent Kennedy McMahon back in the 1990s, of the Attitude Era of the WWF as it was known, ruthless aggression. That was being clearly personified by Dean Vela. But look, Kean Butler hasn't let him get away.
No, indeed, but as that corner really showed, he's struggling with that lack of traction. But yeah, he's doing absolutely everything he possibly can to keep Dean Vela in arm's reach. But of course, Dean may well still make a mistake. He will be suffering with that lack of front downforce. Even though the corners are generally slower, they're not using the downforce as much. He'll still feel it because, again, it's not how they've practiced the car. And again, that tail getting very lively on the 7 car of Kean Butler. So Dean Vella can't just relax and think he's going to pull away into oblivion, as Hans Hannes really is quite some way back now, 4 seconds back. So my earlier prediction that he could get involved is only really going to happen if one of these two falls off the road, and that short sprint there to the double left-hander of Delgado was really where the traction is hurting, or lack of traction is hurting Kean at the moment. That's what's preventing him making a proper comeback, as if I'm not mistaken, we're on our penultimate lap here in Adria, but what a way to kick this season off.
Indeed, the first round out of 5 for the World Pro Racing USF 2000 Championship, as Dean Vella still keeps ahead of Kean Butler, whilst David Kalasai in the number 20 is 13.5 seconds or so up the road. Hans Hannes rounds out the top 4 ahead of Tanel Kassis-Salu. Jan Dix from Team Schmoken completes the top 6 ahead of and Atlantic Motorsports, Ruiz Silva Vieira, with Alexi Maisin from Unison Racing in the 83, rounding out 8th, P8 ahead of Andy Birch, also the teammate for Jan Dix. He rounds out the top 9 ahead of VX Competitions, Nicolas Vieira. But yeah, time is still now ticking away. As the good thing is that the quick thing that David Kalasai is doing is just getting through past back marker traffic. He now goes on to the final lap of the race with around 15 seconds to go. He could just leisurely cruise it across the line. Well, he's going to do that. 10 seconds on the clock, but that means that Dean Vella, he now will cross the line with literally, I think he'll be, as the bean counter hits strike 0, he will have, so we're down to 0 on the clock. It has been an absolute dominant display from David Kalasai from Mugen Sim Racing here, Chris.
Certainly has. You can't say he lucked into that. He started from pole. Glenn certainly advanced his lap early on, even if he isn't the holder of it now. He certainly had it very early, and has just done exactly what he needed to do. We haven't seen him off onto the road. We haven't seen any major dips in time between himself and the Vella-Butler battle that's been ensuing. It's now 1.5 seconds between Vella and Butler now, so Butler really has nothing but rubber bands attached to his car for tyres. But yeah, what can you do? Kalasai has just been absolutely flawless. He saved the best of his pace until qualifying, and he's really deployed it in the race. Well done to the number 20 car.
Right. Round 1 out of 5 for the World Pro Racing USF 2000 Series is in the books. David Kalasai takes the victory rather comfortably, led from lights out to checkered flag. Dean Vella, after that tumultuous and topsy-turvy battle between himself and Kean Butler, will take 2nd position. Butler will round out the podium. Hans Hannes will round out the top 4 a few more seconds down the road in his lovely Braun GP-esque livery as well. Tanel Kassis-Salu managed to, well, he didn't count his chickens, but I think he nearly ran out of 9 lives by the end of the race, because Jan Dix actually closed in on him towards the end of the race. The number 14 from Team Schmoken took 6th position. Silva Vieira takes 7th ahead of Alexi Maisin. Andy Birch takes 9th. Nicolas Vieira takes 10th. Stephen Johnson about to cross the line with Max Carrion just behind. They round out the top 12. Vieira finishes in 11th. Darryl Russell in the number 21 from Atlantic Motorsport rounds out the top 14 behind the number 92. And that is of Dominic Ostermeyer with the top 13 scoring points. But your winner here tonight for the World Pro Racing USF 2000 Series opening round from Mugen Sim Racing. What a drive by David Kalasai. And he's going to have a rather comfortable advantage going into the 2nd round in just a week's time at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That was a great race there, Chris.
Wasn't it just? Yeah, flawless performance there from Kalasai. So yeah, there it is, confirmation. The next week it is round number 2 at Indianapolis. So yeah, very different kind of track. It relies much more on the deployment of top speed, slipstreaming, and being in the right place at the right time. So We'll see if Kalasai's performance is able to be repeated. But well played, really, to all of our drivers for taking part and for sticking what was, quite a tricky race right the way through to the end.
Yeah. So that really is the end of our trackside dramas here. But looks like we've got a couple of interviews. So first up, we'll start with our third place driver, Kian Butler. Kian, a fantastic battle pretty much all the way through the race between yourself and Dean Vella, but still to get P3, I would say after that amount of effort, that was definitely worth it. Were your tyres dropping off towards the end of the race?
No, actually, the start of my stint was really aimed around conserving tyres as much as I could, so they were actually pretty decent towards the end. I think we only had 45% on the front right at the end, so definitely better than what I've done in the practice runs.
And obviously, Dean kept us guessing, and I think kept you guessing at times with obviously going through into the hairpin in the middle of the circuit. That was a real testing point, but obviously there was that slight clash going through T1. It was one of those things where myself and Chris, we were sort of like thinking what was going to happen. It was a great battle between the pair of you, wasn't it? Pretty much most of the race.
Yeah, it was a good battle. There were a couple of moves that I'll be probably grabbing some footage of and sending to the stewards. I mean, hats off to Dean. That was a good battle and all, but I did get damaged a couple of points, so it's just something to be looked at a bit.
Well, Kian, thank you very much for talking to us here in the interview booth, and we wish you all the very best of luck at Indianapolis in a week's time.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Chris, do you want to speak to our second place finisher, Dean Vella, please?
Gladly, yes. Dean, are you with us?
Yeah, hello.
Oh, what a fight you had for so long. Again, Kian, they're saying that early on he was keeping the tyres fresh, and what I observed was that Kian's car looked quite loose, certainly compared to yours. Talk us through what was going through your mind, certainly in the first half of the race.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for the first half, I tried to preserve as much as possible the tires, and I saw, Butler was a bit more skittish. He was sliding a bit more, so I definitely was kind of thinking try to hope that his tires kind of fall off, and then I get the advantage that way. But it was a very cool fight. I enjoyed it.
And towards the end, it looked like you were being quite, shall we say, inventive with some of the lines you were having to take. Kian's defense was absolutely formidable right up until the very end. Again, were you just thinking, what must I do to get past this man? Were you concerned that you wouldn't get past him, or were you confident you could make the move stick?
I mean, in terms of pace, I think I was faster, especially after the first half of the race. But at that point, I was just trying everything I could just to kind of get ahead, really. So yeah, I was a bit inventive, I guess, with some of the lines, definitely.
What about Indianapolis next week? Is that the track you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I haven't raced on it much as in the past, but it looks like a cool track, definitely. So we're looking forward to it.
Well, if tonight was anything to go by, I think we're all looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Dean Vella.
Thank you.
And last but by no means least, we'll have a chat now with Mugen Sim Racing's David Kalasai. David, a fantastic performance. Brought it to pole position, led every single lap. I think possibly you might have the fastest lap, but a really good way to start the USF 2000 series. Just talk us through your race.
Yeah, the first lap and the start was a bit scary for me because I thought some guys will overtake me before the first corner because I had a quite best start, and I was a bit scared about I think Dean's some moves, and I thought he will just dive bombing for me, but fortunately he didn't. Yeah, in the first couple of laps the tires were quite good, but after some lap I started to struggle a bit, and I changed strategy to sliding a little bit in the corners to not have much grip loss on the front. So yeah, I'm pretty happy winning the first race in this league in a with a pretty unknown car and on an unknown car for me. There's a huge happiness from my side.
Yeah, I mean, especially when I've commentated on you before, and you're normally behind the wheel of an LMP2 car.
Yeah,
David,
yeah.
is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to? Any sponsors or any friends or family out there that have given you a lot of support?
I wanted to. Sorry, I plan to make a livery for myself with the Mugen guys, but there had been not so much time for that, so I'd rather forgot it and just focused on that round one.
Well, well done tonight, David Kalasai, our opening round victor here on the USF 2000 series. Well done tonight, David.
Thank you very much.
Firstly, before we sort of talk about what has been an exciting opening round, obviously we have to pay our respects to the recently departed Sabine Schmitz, the Queen of the Nürburgring, who yesterday passed away at the age of just 51, who lived life vicariously and scared many people in the Nürburgring M-Taxi over the years. Chris, just really a big trailblazer in women in motorsport, but also a very, very steely-eyed racer.
Absolutely. There wasn't anything that Sabine couldn't drive fast. A huge role model, particularly for the female racers trying to get into the business. So a huge loss at such a young age. 51 is no age at all for a legend that she was. But alas, she's been taken from us too soon, and may her legend live on.
Indeed, there also have been people putting out petitions about having a corner named after Sabine at the Nordschleife. I couldn't think of a better tribute in my own right. But Chris, coming back now to what has been an absolutely brilliant opening round of the USF 2000 Series Championship here on World Pro Racing. Adria has just lit the spark. I think the bonfire, or maybe the 4th of July display, might be shown at Indianapolis in just a week's time.
Oh, I could not have phrased that better myself. That was, absolutely. Now the bar has been set, and that's a very, very high bar to meet. Very different type of track, much longer type of circuit that relies, like I said, much more on the higher speed and being in the right place at the right time. We'll see. But I would expect the pecking order to be broadly the same, but some people, much prefer these open type of circuits than tight and twisty ones such as Adria. So don't discount anybody.
Indeed. Well, that really wraps up the coverage here on World Pro Racing with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Chris Buxton. A big thank you once again to everyone watching, to all our competitors that have competed this evening here on the Adria International Raceway Circuit. Don't forget, you can head to worldproracing.com. You can also follow us on social media. If not, why have you not done so? We also host weekly casual races, special events, and obviously championships like this with the USF 2000 series. A big thank you once again to all our partners, to Gaming Malta, Melita, who have powered this stream, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, where we're all gamers, and AMD. A big thank you to everyone watching on the World Pro Racing YouTube channel, Facebook Facebook Live video, and also on Twitch. And also a big thank you to all our watchers on TVM Sport in Malta, motorsport.tv, and eSports Television. On behalf of Chris Buxton, my name's Alex Goldschmidt. Thank you for watching, and good night. We'll see you next week.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.